So here we are. We need to add a field that will let us know which animal has been helped and which animal has not yet been helped. So because this is a piece of information that we want attached to each individual animal, we want to record this information on the animals table in the database. So if we go over to my, my editor and we open up the schema for my database, this is where you can see all of the tables of the database and all of the different pieces of data that each table keeps track of. So if we look here at animals, you can see that there's a lot of different individual pieces of info that we care about keeping track of for an animal. We want to know the animal's name, we want to know if it's a cat or a dog, we want to know when we started tracking it in RescueBot, and then we have all these things for addresses about where to pick it up, where to drop it off, and then we have all this other stuff. What we are missing is a field here that would let us record if the animal is rescued. So it might be tempting to think that you could just, make a change here. Maybe like copy this line and then paste it, and then just change that to say rescued, or you could even call it, animal rescued if you wanted. Now, there's a couple problems with that. First of all, this is just a file that describes what the database has in it. This is not actually the database. So changing this line and adding this string here doesn't really do anything real to the database. This is just this is not connected to the actual guts of the real database. So we have to tell the system to change the database and then make a new file that reflects the change. And that's what we'll do here. So I'm going to undo this change and get rid of that line. And we're going to go over here to my terminal, and we're going to tell it that we want to make a new change to the database. And the way you do that when you use Ruby on Rails is you do something called, you create a migration. So we're going to say Rails generate migration, and we're going to call it add rescued to animals. And then we're going to call it rescued, and then it's going to be a Boolean value. What does that mean? Is it going to like that? Yeah, it liked that. Cool. So what it did was it made a file for us called db/migrate/ a bunch of numbers, add rescued to animals. So now we can go to our editor and we can look at that file. So let's see, add rescued to animals. There it is. Here it is. And what's really cool about this is that because of the way I phrased my request to generate this database migration, it even added the programming code to make it easy for me to do that. I didn't have to write any of this because it inferred that from what I put in my command. So this basically says, add a column to the animals table, call that column rescued, and allow that column to store a value that's called a Boolean. And Boolean is just computer science talk for something that is either true or false. Very simple. So if we want to make the change to our database, we would simply say Rails, tell Rails to apply all the migrations to the database by saying Rails db migrate, hit return, and it worked. It said it ran the add to rescue to animals migration, and it added the column. It took about, a tiny fraction of a second to do, and now it's done. And now if we go back to our schema file, now look at this, line 85, see how it's got this like green bar here? That's a new line that just got inserted into this file. And now it says Boolean rescued. So this is great. We've now added the right field into the database to keep track of if an animal is rescued or not, if an animal is rescued is true or false. But now we need to actually add the logic into the application to use the ability to store this data that the database can now track for us. So we'll do that next.